Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're all doing well. So today I'll be talking about how I became a worship leader. So when I was about 7 or 8, I was actually in a Methodist church. So the songs consisted a lot of hymns, or they did have some modern songs, but they were older modern songs, not like the modern songs we have today. And at the age that I was interested in singing because I sung a lot in my room, and my parents would hear me, and as soon as they came in the room to tell me that I was good, I was really shy because at that point I couldn't take a compliment because I was like, I I like to sing on my own. I don't like singing in front of an audience because I get very shy. I get a bit of stage fright, I guess. Um, but it got to the point where I was like, okay, let's see if I can overcome that and see if I can become more confident in my singing. So I joined the church band, which normally consisted of like 3 singers and a piano. It wasn't much of a band. I mean, there was like an organ and drums, but they weren't used that often. Not that I can remember anyway, because it was quite a long time ago, so I don't remember every detail. But yeah, I was the youngest. In fact, I was the only kid singing. So I had a little mic, I had a little stand with words on, and I just found it fun. I didn't see it as worshipping God. I just found it as something that I loved doing, that I was passionate about. So I did that for quite a while, and then a few years later, we moved from the Methodist church to a Pentecostal church. So the difference that I found, because every church is different, is that in a Methodist church you have more hymns, like the songs are more hymn based, whereas in a Pentecostal church they're more modernized. I guess that's the term you use. So in the Methodist church you would only have the piano and singers, like I said, and then compared to a Pentecostal church where you have electric guitar, you have bass guitar, you have acoustic guitar, you have keyboard, you have drums, you have singers, etc. So after I got used to being at the Pentecostal church that we moved to, I gradually got used to the atmosphere that it had because it was very different to the Methodist church that I was in. So as I got to know people more within the church, people found out that I could in fact play trumpet, because I've been playing trumpet since I was about 7, I guess, I think. And they were like, would you like to play trumpet for the Christmas Carol service? So there was me like, I can play trumpet, but I'm not an expert. But they said that I would only be playing bits of the song, not the whole song. So I was like, okay, I will give it a go and see how it goes. Bearing in mind the congregation within a Pentecostal church compared to a Methodist church is a lot bigger. So I had to get that confidence in order to do it. It wasn't just me playing trumpet, so I wasn't alone, which is good. But then again, I was the only kid that was playing trumpet, so I stood out from how small I was at the time. But during the Christmas Carol service, after doing it for quite a while, I found myself looking at the choir quite a lot and thinking, I want to be part of the choir because I love singing. As much as I love trumpet, I also love singing. So I asked if I could be part of the choir one year, and they said, yeah, sure. So I started singing in the choir for the Christmas Carol services, and I felt a bit more comfortable when I was singing because I wasn't on my own. I was with a group of people, which was nice. So if like my voice cracked at some point, then it would be covered up by all the other voices, I hoped. But I was always at the front of the choir because they were like in rows and it gradually got higher, like it was in height order. So I found that a bit daunting because I was like, okay, what if they hear me and I accidentally sing something wrong? So yeah, it was a process with me with building up confidence, and I guess you learn on the job because you're not just gonna be perfect just like that. We do make mistakes. Even now, I make mistakes, and I am owning up to that because I know I do. There's no point hiding it if I do. But that's when we learn from those mistakes and we progress from those mistakes. So let's just do a bit of a recap. I went from singing in the Methodist church to playing trumpet in the Pentecostal church to then being part of the choir in the Pentecostal church. And after a few years of getting more and more used to the atmosphere and the people that I was surrounded by and the support that I had from them, I reached the age where I could become part of the youth group, because you had to be in year 7, so you would have been 12 years old, around that age, 12, 13 years old. So I joined the youth group, and the youth group was set up just like a Sunday service, but with the youth. So we had worship and then we had to preach. We actually had games before the worship just to have a bit of fun and a bit of team building, I guess. So after a while of being in the youth group, I saw how the worship was set out on the platform, and I was like, I want to give it a go because I want to see if I can build up confidence through it. Because back then I still saw it as something fun to do. I didn't really see it much as worship. I just saw it as something that I was passionate about. So I asked if I could be part of the worship team, and they said, yeah, you can be part of the worship team. So I started singing. A lot of the time I was singing melody, because sometimes we have a bit of a mixture of melody and harmony. And after a while, I started to build up confidence to sing a bit of harmony within some of the songs, because I knew that I could do harmony. I just didn't have the confidence to actually do it within a set. But it got to the point where I was like, okay, just do it, and if it doesn't go well, then you know not to do it again. So I started doing harmony, and people were surprised because they did not expect that from me. So I started doing harmonies now and then. I did a mixture of both. And then it got to the point where, after quite a while of doing that, one of the worship leaders that I was on with asked me if I wanted to lead a song, because they said, yep, I'm leading the set, but I thought it would be good for you to at least lead a song. So I started doing that for a while with various worship leaders at the time. And at first I was like, okay, this is quite scary because I'll be singing on my own. This is a solo. What if I sing something wrong by accident and everyone's going to hear it? Da, da, da. But what I later realised is that I'm not the centre of attention. Yes, I'm on stage and some people look in my direction, but that doesn't mean that they're focusing on you during worship, because they're focusing on God. And that's what I gradually learned. So that's kind of helped me with my confidence, because I was like, okay, worship has nothing to do with me. It's to do with God, because that's the time that we have with God. Is not to showcase your talents. And to be honest, at the beginning, I did think that, but gradually I learned on the job, spiritually and musically, because I learned how to do harmonies and etc. etc. And after I built my confidence up more and more, I was then asked to possibly actually worship lead and lead a set. So at that point I was like, okay, I'm moving up. This is quite daunting, to be honest. But I said to myself, okay, just have a go at it. If you don't like it, then say something and explain to them. And a lot of it was, I'm not confident enough to do this. I don't think I can do this. It's a lot of I don't think. But sometimes what you have to learn is people see something in you that you don't necessarily always see. So I was like, okay, if they think I can do it, I will have a go at it and see what happens. So from then on, I progressed to doing worship leading. Sometimes I was the side singer, sometimes I was worship leading, because I wasn't worship leading all the time. But at the beginning, I found it really hard to pick keys for the songs, because when you worship lead, you pick the songs, but you don't just pick random songs. You have to actually, it has to be something that's on your heart that God has given you. So when I was picking the songs, I also had to think of what key they would be in, and I found that part always difficult, because beforehand, I wouldn't have known anything about keys. I would just be like, okay, I'm given a song, practice it, boom, done. But when I became a worship leader, I was like, okay, there's a lot more that goes into this than I think. And it's like you have to think of the right key to suit your voice, to suit the other voices. But I always find that whenever I do a worship set, I always have a theme that goes with it. So once I did a theme on, I guess, loneliness and anxiety. So I picked some songs that basically tell you that God is always there. He's always constant in our lives. He will never leave us. So I have a theme with that, just to get the message across to the congregation, to the youth, through song. And I've done that probably for the past 2, possibly 3 years. And recently, I was then asked to worship lead for the youth takeover. So that was on Sunday, because sometimes for Sunday services, we have a youth takeover service where you have the youth worshipping, where you have the youth preaching, so on and so on. So I was asked to worship lead for that, and I was like, yeah, I can give it a go, to be honest. I don't feel that confident, bearing in mind I'm used to worshipping in front of the youth, not the adults. So I'm not going to lie, I was nervous, but once I got into it, I felt more relaxed, because I always find when I practice songs, I don't really get into the worship, because it doesn't have the same atmosphere as when you're actually doing it. So, but I guess I need to start getting into that mode, that feeling of worship, so then I could feel more confident in myself, because I feel like whenever I worship and I connect with God, that's when I feel a lot more free, I guess, because we practice the worship set before the youth night, and whenever I practice, I feel very tense, because I don't fully get into the worship in practice, because we're just figuring out how we're going to transition from one song to the other. So that was more of practice a song, discuss ideas about it, practice a song, so on and so on. Whereas when you're actually doing it on the night, you feel more relaxed, you feel more free, because that's when you actually connect with God, and that's when you actually start fully getting into the worship, which I found. There's been a lot of things that I have learnt throughout doing worship, whether that was just being a side singer or worship leading. So yeah, that was a brief story of how I became a worship leader. And there's been a lot of things that I have learned, but since this video is quite long, which again I apologise for, I am very bad at timings for videos, I will probably do a separate video on what I've personally learned during my progress of worship. And so if you want to look out for that, if you want me to do that video, give this video a like and subscribe, put notifications on, so then you know when my videos come out, which is every Thursday, but I don't have a specific time that my videos come out, because sometimes I'm either still editing it on the day or I'm busy with school. So on that note, hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next week.